Welcome back to the Avert Alzheimer's podcast. My name is Leanne and I am your host. I am so happy that you are here today. Today, as you saw in the headline, today's podcast is all about 5 things that lead to insulin resistance. But before we talk about those 5 things, let's quickly talk about what insulin resistance is and why it is so important for Alzheimer's. Insulin resistance is basically when you have produced so much glucose in your body, or you have ingested so much glucose into your body that it can't keep up. The insulin just continues to pump out and your body does not know what to do with it anymore because it is just overloaded. And so you become insulin resistant, which means that your insulin or your body doesn't really have the ability to utilize insulin the way that it should anymore because it's tired. You just have a tired body now. And so the pancreas produces the insulin and the insulin just continues to pump out because you continue to put empty carbohydrates and sugars into your body, and it overloads your body. When that happens, that's when we start seeing a lot of the type 2 diabetes diagnoses and the obesity and things like that. So how does that affect Alzheimer's? Because only about 50% of people who have Alzheimer's have diabetes. However, if you have type 2 diabetes, then you have increased your chances of getting Alzheimer's tenfold. So you definitely want to reverse the diabetes in order to help prevent Alzheimer's. I mean, they kind of really go hand in hand. My mother had type 2 diabetes and she's, early onset Alzheimer's, and now at 72, I expect she will pass away any day. She's definitely pushing into the latter parts of the disease. My grandmother, on the other hand, did not have type 2 diabetes. She was diagnosed with Alzheimer's about 10 years later than my mother was in life. But she also died in her mid-80s from Alzheimer's. So that just goes to show 2 people in my family who were diagnosed with Alzheimer's, one with diabetes and one without. So you don't have to have diabetes to get Alzheimer's. That is, I think, probably one of the grossest misconceptions about Alzheimer's, because they want to tag it type 3 diabetes. And it's not a form of diabetes, but it is a form of insulin resistance of the brain. So when you are constantly producing insulin, your brain can't process glucose anymore either. And so you are just destroying your brain at the same time. So let's talk about what makes you insulin resistant. Well, I've already mentioned sugar. So sugar is probably one of the key factors that will make your body insulin resistant, because insulin is produced when you put glucose in your body. That is what happens. So that's the reason the keto diet is so heavily promoted right now, because you don't eat sugar on keto. The downside to that, which is another podcast in itself, is they've come out with these, what they call non-nutritive sweeteners, and those sweeteners actually spike insulin more even than sugar does. So you have to be really careful with your sweets. And if you're buying over-the-counter, not over-the-counter, but grocery store pre-packaged keto goods, the odds that you're actually increasing your insulin worse are pretty strong. So pay attention to what you're buying. So sugar is your number 1 insulin resistant promoter. So what else do we have to work on? Well, empty carbs, white carbohydrates, flour, rice, potatoes, anything that's really starchy, yams, all of those produce insulin. Oats produce insulin because they all enter the body and get turned into glucose. When that happens, you are producing insulin. And people are told, because our pyramid is upside down, that you need to eat more grains than you do meat and fat. And that's backward. And so because we have been told to do this since the 1970s, we have seen a horrible epidemic of diabetes, a horrible epidemic of the Alzheimer's onset, and it's just getting worse because every time something comes out that people say is so good for you, big food corporations go out there and they produce these mass-produced products and tell you that it meets the standard of whatever type of food you're trying to eat, whether it's paleo, keto, they can't do it with carnivore, but paleo or keto or I can't even remember all of them out there now, Weight Watcher, whatever it is. You know, they're always trying to come out with something that they can mass produce that you will go consume, and it never is exactly what they say it is. So you're better off making your own food. Okay, so we've got sugar, we've got all the white starchies. Let's talk about alcohol. I know. So I've actually been sober for a really long time because I'm an alcoholic. Most of you watching this probably are not. There may be a few of you who go, I may need to think about that. But the reality is, if you're having more than 2 drinks a week, that's right, 2 drinks a week, you are drinking too much. Alcohol does nothing good for your brain. It actually is the first thing that your body will go to process when you consume alcohol. So if you're consuming alcohol with a meal, your body is going to go in and actually process that alcohol to get it back out of your body as fast as possible. And then it's going to go process those carbs. So those carbs or whatever else you're eating are going to sit in your body until your body gets done processing that alcohol, and then it's going to process it. So think about this for a second, right? So we always hear that we burn carbs so fast. But if you're burning carbohydrates faster, if you're not burning carbohydrates faster than you're burning alcohol, your body's getting rid of that alcohol because it's poison. I mean, that's really what it is. It's poison, and your body's recognizing it as so and wants it back out. So these carbs are sitting there and they're just turning into fermented sugar in your gut. And then it goes to process that out. How much insulin do you think your body has to produce in order to get that fermented sugar back out of your body? Hence insulin resistance. So alcohol, which most alcohols have a ton of gluten and sugar in them anyway, turn to sugar. There's number 3. Number 4 on that list is going to be what I've already mentioned, but we're going to dive a little deeper, non-nutritive sweeteners. So years ago, Sweet and Low came out, and now it has since been linked to Alzheimer's. And so some people have stopped using it, but Sweet and Low, Splenda is just chlorinated sugar. It's so processed and so chemically, it's just chlorinated sugar. So you've got Sweet and Low, Splenda, Equal, and then all the things that end in ose. And then you have all these other new non-nutritive sweeteners that people are consuming in mass quantity, such as stevia, such as monk fruit, such as allulose. I've done it too because I really believed that they were good for you. But let's think about this for just one moment. Anything that is in a white powder form has been chemically altered. So if you want something completely natural, you go buy stevia plant, and it's little green leaves. That's the natural version of stevia. If you want a really natural sweetener, use cinnamon or mint in the actual leaf and stick form. Honey is something that I still use because it's the only true natural sweetener on the market. If you buy good raw honey that hasn't been tampered with. Maple syrup is also good and raw and hasn't been tampered with. However, I am going to disclose, you need to be metabolically healthy. You need to not have diabetes. You need to check your sugar cravings if you do try and use those in lieu of other substances. And you need to be able to do all of that in moderation. And most people, myself included occasionally, will get triggered by something sweet, and it will automatically make you want to eat more. I have been really fortunate with honey. Honey does not tend to trigger a sweet tooth in me. I can have just a tiny little bit of honey in something and I seem to be okay. Maple syrup triggers me. And some of those non-nutritive sweeteners trigger me as well. So I will put the link below in the description, but those non-nutritive sweeteners are starting to show up in studies to actually spike insulin. Even though they're not raising your blood sugar, they're spiking your insulin to the point that you are it's staying risen longer than if you were eating sugar. Now, this is not me saying go eat sugar. This is me saying this is how bad it really is. We are so conditioned to eat something sweet that companies are coming out with products that they don't care how it affects our health. They just want you to consume it. This is why it's so important that we make things from scratch. Because if you go look at something that is keto on the market and look at all the different sweeteners that they have in it, and some of them are going to be inulin, and you may not recognize that one. Inulin, it's going to be stevia, it's going to be monk fruit, it might be allulose, it might be, there's the other one that I'm forgetting right this second, but it's going to be, erythritol. All these different sweeteners, and they'll put 3 or 4 of them in one product because they have to limit the amount of each one that they put in there so they can say that it's keto, and it's not. It is not keto. All right. 5th ingredient or 5th food out there that can lead to insulin resistance, and this resistance, and this one is, I know, going to get me some backlash, and that's okay. I'm ready for you. Fruit. Anything outside of blueberries and the occasional blackberry, raspberry, and strawberry, but really blueberries are the least sweet fruit on the market and the best for you because they are full of antioxidants. Every other fruit out there, especially if you're drinking juice, is just sugar. We don't need fiber in order for anything to work properly. That's just always been a misleading information. We do not need fiber, but we also don't need fruit. I know I'm ruining your day right now, but if you are really trying to get your life together and not have insulin resistance and fight diabetes and fight Alzheimer's prevention, then you just have to take my word for it. Do your research. I'll put some studies in the description below so that you have that information, but please just pay attention to what you eat. Fructose is no different than eating a big old cup of sugar, especially if you're eating a lot of it, and especially if you're drinking the juice. If you're juicing something and drinking it, all you're getting is the sugar from it. You are not getting any of the actual pulp. You're not getting any of the vitamins that are in there. And yeah, fruit can be good for you in some regards if that's what you're looking for, especially if you're looking for something naturally sweet, but you don't need it. You don't need it. I know. You're going to hate me by the time you watch some of these podcasts, but at the same time, I just want you to be aware. I want you to have the knowledge. I want you to do your own research. I want you to feel confident in what you know. And I want you to be able to rely on me to give you good quality information. I eat blueberries all the time. I had some today. I had some in a cup of cottage cheese after a workout. It was delightful. It was the best sweet treat. And it was full of protein. So just keep it in mind. You don't have to buy into the standard American diet. You don't need to buy into that stupid food pyramid that is upside down and so wrong. And if you have any questions, I am here for you. I have a membership group that is only $7 a month. It's so super cheap. And we talk about stuff like this in there. There's tons and tons of videos in there for you. I will put a link to that in the description below. I also have a course that's launching that gives you the 5 pillars of Alzheimer's prevention, which includes a whole module on nutrition that I go into deep information about fruit. Check it out. I'm here for you. If you have any questions, please let me know. Otherwise, I will see you next time. Have a wonderful day.